Hello Moto GP fans. Welcome back to ZNGP Today. Marc Márquez's emotional breakdown after the Le Mans sprint crash was driven by a mix of acute injury, a long-standing shoulder problem, and the pressure of racing while physically compromised. New footage and team disclosures show he had been concealing the full extent of a shoulder issue caused by a bent screw that intermittently compressed his radial nerve, a problem that robbed him of strength at critical moments on the Desmosedici. Ducati's riders say Aprilia's edge at Le Mans came down to traction and corner entry, and they outlined what the factory must fix to close the gap. Despite a difficult weekend, Ducati personnel left Le Mans cautiously optimistic after identifying clear, addressable performance deficits and reporting progress from recent tests. Massimo Rivola framed Jorge Martin's double at Le Mans as vindication for Aprilia's decision to stand by the rider after last year's dramatic exit attempt. The victory, sprint and Grand Prix, capped a weekend of dominance and underlined Aprilia's technical progress and team cohesion. Toprak Razgatlioglu plans to adopt a Fabio Quartararo-style setup on his Pramac Yamaha at the Catalonia Grand Prix after studying Quartararo's strong Le Mans weekend. A grid-side mechanical issue forced Toprak onto a wet-spec spare bike in France, masking his true pace. Now he wants to see whether a setup closer to the factory rider's baseline can unlock better turning and race distance performance. Don't forget to click subscribe button and the bell icon for MotoGP news update. After further checks following Jerez, doctors found an old screw from a 2019 shoulder operation had shifted and was intermittently touching Marquez's radial nerve. That explained sudden, brief losses of strength when he pushed the bike hard. He had planned a post-Catalonia operation but chose to combine it with urgent foot surgery after fracturing his fifth metatarsal at Le Mans, accelerating a double procedure in Madrid. Removing the offending metalwork and cleaning the area was intended to restore nerve function and eliminate a chronic limiter to his riding. The team's inside footage shows Marquez breaking down after the sprint. The emotional reaction reflected physical exhaustion, frustration at a problem he'd been hiding, and the realization that his body had been betraying him on the bike. He described the sensation plainly. "I'm racing with 1.5 arms." That admission underlines how intermittent nerve pain and weakness can make elite-level control impossible, and deeply distressing for a rider used to absolute precision. Despite the shoulder issue, Marquez produced exceptional single-lap pace at Le Mans, breaking the track record in Q1 and nearly taking pole, which highlighted the contrast between raw speed and sustained race capability. He explained that while he could still produce, attack laps, sustaining race pace was compromised because the shoulder failed under prolonged, high-load riding. "The body comes first," said Ducati's management in response, framing the surgical choice. Marquez and his medical team hoped the combined surgeries would allow a return within a few weeks, potentially for the Italian GP or Hungary, but both Ducati and pundits caution that true competitiveness may take longer. Analysts estimate he may need 2 to 3 Grands Prix to regain full race sharpness even after the shoulder is fixed, because rehabilitation must restore strength, nerve function, and the confidence to push at race intensity. In the short term, Marquez's absence and Bagnaya's Le Mans DNF leave Ducati with reduced firepower and fewer development voices on race weekends. The factory will rely on Bagnaia, Alex Marquez and satellite riders to gather data and score points while managing expectations about a rapid return. Longer term, if the shoulder surgery fully resolves the nerve issue, Marquez could return not only healthy but freed from a chronic performance limiter, a potential net gain for Ducati's season. The Le Mans episode exposed a hidden medical story behind Marquez's recent inconsistency. Exceptional one-lap speed masked a nerve problem that made race riding precarious. The double surgery was a decisive step to fix both the acute foot injury and the chronic shoulder issue. The coming weeks will show whether rehabilitation restores his previous race durability. For now, Ducati must manage the immediate sporting fallout while hoping the operation yields a stronger, more reliable Marquez when he returns. Ducati riders highlighted two recurring advantages in Aprilia's package: the ability to carry speed through corner entry and exceptional traction on corner exit. Watching Marco Bezzecchi and Jorge Martin, Ducati riders noted Aprilia's capacity to brake and turn with precision, then accelerate earlier and harder out of turns, a combination that repeatedly cost Ducati time. "They accelerate really hard out of the corners," Bagnaia said. Corner entry confidence plus exit traction shortens lap time in both qualifying and race stints, especially on circuits with heavy braking zones followed by long acceleration phases. VR46 Fabio Di Gianantonio described a persistent lack of front-end precision on the Ducati. Riders must think about turn-in and manage the front tire, whereas Aprilia riders appear to commit instinctively. That extra mental and mechanical load forces Ducati riders to rely more on the rear tire to recover, accelerating rear degradation over race distance. Bagnaia said Ducati engineers are already probing electronic settings, specifically anti-wheelie control and acceleration mapping, after following Bezzecchi in the sprint revealed useful clues. He reported a step forward in the warm-up and race, suggesting the team is narrowing the deficit through software and calibration changes. Despite Le Mans producing Ducati's third non-podium in 6 races, riders expressed cautious optimism. Alex Marquez and Bagnaia pointed to positive signs from the Jerez test and warm-up improvements at Le Mans, arguing the package is closer than it looks and that focused work could restore competitiveness. Di Gianantonio emphasized belief in the project and the need to keep developing. Ducati's immediate priorities are clear: restore front-end precision, refine electronics for cleaner acceleration, and validate those changes under race conditions to protect the rear tire. With Marc Márquez sidelined, the factory must also rely on Bagnaia, Alex Marquez and satellite riders to gather the necessary telemetry and confirm fixes. Ducati's diagnosis is focused and actionable. Aprilia's advantage is not mystical but technical: corner entry confidence and exit traction. If Ducati can improve front-end feel and optimize electronics without accelerating rear degradation, it should be able to close the gap. The next few races will show whether Le Mans was a temporary setback or the start of a deeper shift in the championship balance. Rivola's first thought after the historic 1-3 was the memory of Martin's private visit to Le Mans a year earlier, when the rider tried to trigger an exit clause. Aprilia resisted, kept faith in the relationship, and now sees the result as confirmation that the gamble paid off. "It's quite a day. My first thought goes to 1 year ago here in Le Mans when Jorge wanted to leave. And today is a big reward for us together." Turning a fraught contractual episode into a public triumph strengthens the factory's narrative and morale. Rivola emphasized both the managerial and emotional work behind Martin's return to form, a mix of firm direction and human support. He credited the team's leadership and the technical staff for creating an environment where Martin could rebuild confidence after injuries and off-track distractions. Rebuilding a rider's trust often requires patience and a clear technical roadmap as much as motivational support. With Martin's win and Marco Bezzecchi's consistent results, Aprilia now fields 2 genuine title contenders. Rivola stressed a simple internal rule: respect. He believes that mutual professionalism will allow both riders to push without destructive conflict. Managing 2 fast teammates is a strategic challenge. Clear principles reduce the risk of intra-team collisions costing championship points. Rivola acknowledged Martin's likely move to Yamaha in 2027 and accepted it as part of the sport's reality, while reiterating Aprilia's commitment to both riders. He said the team will back whoever deserves it most on track, signaling a meritocratic approach to future decisions. Public acceptance of a departing rider can preserve relationships and protect the team's reputation during transfer windows. Le Mans elevated Aprilia to the front of the championship narrative, but Rivola remained cautious. It's early in the season and rivals remain dangerous. He welcomed Marc Márquez's eventual return as a test of Aprilia's progress and warned that the title fight will still be decided by small margins. Sustaining momentum requires technical follow-through and disciplined intra-team management. If Aprilia keeps both, they'll be hard to beat. Jorge Martin's Le Mans double is both a sporting milestone and a public vindication of Aprilia's long-term strategy. The result strengthens Aprilia's hand technically and politically, but the team's ability to manage two title-capable riders and maintain development pace will determine whether Le Mans becomes a season-defining turning point or a high point in a still-open title fight. Razgatlioglu will trial a setup direction used by Fabio Quartararo to determine whether the gap to the factory rider is down to setup or rider adaptation. He believes Quartararo has found a configuration that extracts more from the Yamaha's potential, particularly through mid-corner and turn-in phases. I will continue studying the data carefully, and maybe in Barcelona we can even try starting from a setup closer to Fabio's. Using a teammate's baseline is a pragmatic way to separate machine limits from rider technique. A breakdown on the way to the grid forced Toprak to race on his spare bike, which had been prepared for wet conditions. The race ran dry, so he effectively competed on a compromised setup that hurt his mid-race pace and tire life. Despite that, he recorded his best Grand Prix finish to date and gained useful data. Running a wet spec machine in dry conditions typically reduces front grip and accelerates tire degradation, making setup experiments harder to interpret. Turning is the main area Toprak wants to address. He says he loses significant time through corners compared with Quartararo, and hopes the new setup will improve front-end feel and allow him to carry more speed through the apex. He also noted late-race front tire drop-off at Le Mans, which compounded the deficit. Improving turn-in confidence often yields immediate lap time gains and reduces rear tire stress over a race distance. At Le Mans, Toprak reverted to last year's front wing, the same choice Quartararo used, because it gave him a better feeling under braking. He admits the current Moto GP riding position still feels unfamiliar and that he's adapting to sitting higher on the bike, which affects front perception. With the old one, I felt a little bit better to keep leaning on the brake, so I kept the same as Fabio. Aerodynamic and seating tweaks can change rider confidence quickly. The key is validating those gains across different circuits. Catalunya will be a practical test. Toprak will try a Quartararo-style baseline and evaluate whether the setup narrows the gap in turning and tire life. If it suits his style, he may keep it. If not, engineers will iterate toward a compromise that balances his riding preferences with the M1's characteristics. Rapid, data-driven experiments with a proven teammate baseline are the fastest route for a rookie to close a performance gap. Toprak's Catalunya experiment is a sensible, low-risk step toward understanding whether his deficit is setup-driven or rider-specific. If the Quartararo-style setup improves turn-in and tire longevity, expect quicker progress. If not, the team will note to prioritize rider coaching and bespoke chassis adjustments. Either way, Barcelona should deliver a much clearer picture of his Yamaha learning curve. Thanks for watching ZNGP Today, and this is your MotoGP news update. And see you next time!